Hello, this is a video for English 9, the short story unit, and lesson 1. These are notes on elements of a short story. The first element is plot. The definition of plot is a sequence of events in a story. This next picture is the plot structure. You will eventually have to draw, label, and explain the plot structure. Then apply it to a short story or a movie. The plot diagram shows how the main events in a short story are organized into a plot. On the left, you have exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. The introduction or exposition is the beginning of the story where the characters and the setting are revealed. Rising action is where the events in the story become complicated and the conflict in the story is revealed. Climax is the highest point of interest and the turning point of the story. Falling action is when the events and complications begin to resolve themselves. The reader knows what has happened next and if the conflict was resolved or not. Finally, the resolution. This is the final outcome or the untangling of the events in the story. It is helpful to consider the climax as threefold. Number 1, the main character receives new information. Number 2, they accept this information, realize it, but does not necessarily agree with it. Number 3, he or she acts on this information, makes a choice that will determine whether or not he or she gains his objective. Characters. These are the individuals involved in the story. They do not necessarily have to be people. They do not have to be real, but they do have to be believable. Most short stories contain a protagonist, which is the good guy or the hero, and an antagonist, which is the bad guy, but they do not have to be people. Conflict. The struggle between opposing forces, which is the driving force of a story. The outcome of any story provides a resolution to the conflicts. Conflict keeps the reader reading. There are several different types of conflict. Man versus man, which are conflicts between individuals or groups. Man versus nature, conflicts between man and nature. Man versus society, which is a conflict between a character and society. Man versus self, conflict on the inside of a character struggling with him or herself. Man versus technology, which is a conflict between a character and a man-made machine. Here is a link of a storyboard that you may visit in your spare time. I will click it. It gives you examples of the 5 types of conflict in literature. So here's the storyboard on the left. This is for man versus man or character versus character. These characters are pitted against one another. The antagonist or other character tries to keep the protagonist from reaching his goal. The protagonist must overcome the efforts of the antagonist to reach his goal. If you click on this picture, it'll blow it up so that you can see how this might apply to a short story. Man versus man. We will go back. Man versus nature or character versus nature. The hero must overcome a force of nature to meet his goal. Nature can be a force of nature like a storm, earthquake, or difficult climate, or an animal from nature. In literature, the hero sometimes meets his goal, but is sometimes defeated. So then again, if you click over here, it will blow up this storyboard explaining man versus nature. We will go back. Man versus society, or character versus society. A protagonist sees something in a unique way. People in his town or culture do not like his way of thinking. His bold ideas diverge from tradition or the rules. They ridicule and threaten him. He is compelled to act. Our hero may convince the others he is right, but he might be forced to flee town. He may even lose his life. So again, if you click on the picture, it blows up man versus society and an example storyboard. You can go back. Man versus self. The protagonist must overcome her own nature to reach her goal. The protagonist struggles within her own mind. The protagonist needs to overcome her struggle to reach the goal. She may or may not succeed. Click on the picture, man versus self, storyboard. Click back. Man versus technology. The protagonist must overcome a machine or technology. Most often, the encounter with the machine or technology is through the character's own doing. For example, it may be technology or a machine that they created, purchased, or owned with the assumption that it would make their life easier. Over time, the protagonist must overcome the technology, in some instances, even destroying it before it destroys them. Click on the picture, and here is a storyboard of man versus technology. I will post this link to the Weebly page in the lesson 1 for short stories. And we can go back to our PowerPoint. So again, I will post this link so you have access to it. And theme, the message of the author. The message the author wants you to get from the reading piece. It's usually very broad. Some examples are truth, justice, friendship, don't believe everything you see. It is normally really easy to pick out a theme of a little children's book if you would like to practice finding a theme. The theme should be the meaning or the purpose of the story. It should be specific to the story, universal, meaning everyone, the majority of the people should be able to understand, provide unity to the story, be an integral part of the story, present a new awareness of life. Lastly, setting. This is the time and place where the story occurs. It can be specific or ambiguous. A place could be a geographical location, a time, when is the story taking place, weather conditions, rainy, sunny, stormy, social conditions, what is the daily life of the characters like, or mood or atmosphere, what is the feeling created at the beginning of the story? Is it bright, cheerful, dark, frightening? So those are the 5 elements of a short story, and I'm going to go back to plot structure. As a reminder, you will have to draw this plot structure, label with exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution, be able to define all of those and give an example.